Hi, it's Jane Slacksmith here. Now, we've covered in previous videos the amount of money you probably need to purchase a property and the little costs. But in addition to that, if you're buying especially an investment property, you need to be aware that there's additional costs as well, the costs of holding the property. Now, you really need to do your research on this because time and time again I talk to people who say to me, oh my gosh, I've bought these properties and they may be negatively geared or not, but there's all these extra costs that I just can't afford. So you need to do your research up front and know what these are. Now, on costs, in my experience with all my investment properties, actually range between 20 and 30% of additional costs of the rent amount. So if you've got a property of, let's say, renting at $400 a week, be prepared for an extra $80 a week in costs. Now, obviously, you're not paying those weekly. So this might be landlord's insurance, you might be looking at strata fees, you might be looking at utilities, you might be looking at maintenance. So there's so many additional costs that you need to be aware of. Now, obviously, if you've been through my Your Property Success courses, we go through each one of those so that you can start planning and budgeting. But you really need to understand that, allow an extra 20 to 30% of what you get in return as your rent as your cost. Now, the government can assist you in this, especially if you're PAYG. What you can do is submit what's called a tax variation. Now, speak to your accountant about this, but a tax variation essentially says, look, especially for negatively geared properties, I'm expecting to get $10,000 or $6,000 back at the end of the year as a tax return. Now, you don't have to eat mince every night waiting for that $6,000 to come back. Your accountant or yourself online can put a tax variation in, and that tax variation essentially says, I'm expecting to get $6,000 back. Can you tell my payroll officer so that they take $500 less per month out of my tax? So that means you've got that money in your bank or in your pocket that can actually assist you to bankroll all of that additional fees and costs that you have. So remember, you should possibly have a buffer in place so that when those additional fees do come up, that you can pay for them. But as well as that, consider a tax variation. And in changing times, tax variations possibly may need to be changed as well. So for instance, if interest rates are really high and you've claimed a high interest payment and they drop down quite quickly, then if you've got that differential quite different, so if you're saying that you're going to get $6,000 back and it's really only $2,000, the tax office may not let you put in a tax variation the following year. So you need to be on top of your costs. Don't claim everything in the tax variation. You're going to leave something, a bit of a buffer, be a little conservative, but just be aware it's a tool that you can use to help cash flow. I hope this has helped, and just remember, research the on costs and all the costs that you could be up for your purchase that you're going to have to fund throughout the year.